Hisense and TCL have cornered the budget TV market with a range of relatively cheap TVs that give the big three a run for their money. We've recommended the Hisense U7N quite a bit as one of the best value TVs released in 2024. But the TCL QM7 is right up there with it. So is there really a clear-cut difference here? Is one really better than the other? Hi, I'm Abby from RTINGS.com. Today we'll be pitting the budget beasts against each other to see which 7 model is worth your hard-earned dollars. We'll skip things like design and build quality since both of these TVs have similar builds. Both run Google TV OS, and if you were hoping remote backlighting would be the decision maker, we're sorry to tell you that they both feature backlit remotes. If you are curious about those details, be sure to check out our previous reviews of these TVs. Now, let's talk about what really matters: picture quality. Both the U7N and QM7 use quantum dot technology and mini LED backlighting, so you can generally expect a vibrant image and good contrast. The QM7 technically has a better native contrast ratio, so it just barely outscores the Hisense on our contrast test. But the Hisense has better contrast with local dimming enabled. If you care about picture quality, you'll want to keep local dimming on, and in that case, the Hisense does produce slightly deeper blacks. Both TVs are excellent here though, so you really won't be disappointed with either. That being said, the TCL has significantly more local dimming zones than the Hisense, resulting in less blooming around bright objects and slightly better lighting zone transitions. We do have to mention that these results are from different size models. We tested the 75-inch QM7 and the 65-inch U7N, so they aren't exactly comparable. The 75-inch version of the U7N has a few more local dimming zones, 512 according to Hisense, but that's still far fewer than the 75-inch QM7. So the TCL does have a bit of a leading edge here. The TVs are very evenly matched in brightness. In HDR, the TCL reaches higher peaks, but the Hisense is still very bright. In real content, you're unlikely to notice a huge difference, as both TVs provide enough pop in the highlights to deliver an impactful HDR experience. It's a similar story in SDR, with both hitting about the same level of brightness in real content. If you have a bright living room or you watch most of your content during the day, you can't go wrong with either, since they both get bright enough to overcome glare. But if your setup has a lot of light sources directly facing the TV, the Hisense does have distinctly better reflection handling. Direct reflections are less noticeable than they are on the TCL. That makes the U7N a slightly better overall choice for bright rooms. On the other hand, the Hisense has a slightly worse viewing angle. There's more noticeable color shift as you move off-center, although the TCL loses brightness and looks washed out much quicker. Neither TV is really stellar here, so don't expect a great experience if you end up with a side seat at your next movie night. But the QM7 stays a bit more accurate overall. Speaking of accuracy, the U7N has a more accurate SDR image out of the box. Again, neither TV really shines here, so you'll want to calibrate your TV either way. That's if you care about accuracy. But the Hisense has fewer white balance and color accuracy errors off the bat, making it a little easier to get it where you want it. The Hisense also does a better job of displaying HDR content at the intended brightness level, regardless of what nit level the content was mastered at. Aside from blacks being a smidge raised, everything is displayed pretty much right on target until the TV's peak brightness. The TCL tends to display darker content a bit brighter than it should be. Both TVs also produce vibrant colors thanks to their quantum dot mini LED combo. As you can see, both have a wide color gamut and have no trouble displaying rich, saturated colors. So HDR and 4K Blu-ray fans will rejoice either way. And they're both neck and neck in picture processing too. The TCL's low-quality content smoothing is a bit more aggressive, smoothing out artifacts a bit better at the expense of fine detail, but the differences here are very slim and hardly noticeable. Likewise, both TVs do a good job of upscaling low-resolution content. Details are pretty well preserved, so this one's definitely a draw. Both TVs also support up to 4K at 144 Hz with 2 HDMI 2.1 ports. The TCL, however, can only do the full 144 Hz or 1080p at 240 Hz on HDMI port 1. Port 2 is limited to 4K at 120 Hz. Thankfully, both TVs support Dolby Vision HDR. Both also support all VRR technologies. That means they're both fully compatible with the latest gaming consoles. And they both also pass through all major audio formats. You might be sensing kind of a pattern here. As for gaming, well, input lag and response time are nearly identical, so you'll get a responsive, lag-free gaming experience. But they're each buggy in different ways. Hey, look at that, a difference. The Hisense has some issues at refresh rates above 100 Hz when VRR is enabled, leading to more overshoot errors. There's a similar bug on the TCL above and below 65 Hz. If your frame rate hovers around these refresh rates, the shift will be distracting. The TCL also has a bug that occasionally prevents VRR from working properly, especially with a 60 Hz signal from an NVIDIA-equipped PC. As for sound, well, they both feature built-in subwoofers that don't actually do much. The Hisense has a bit more bass, but the TCL has less compression at higher volumes. Neither TV can compete with a dedicated sound system, but they're not bad for budget TV speakers. So, how do we wrap this up? Is there even a clear winner here? As you can tell, a lot of these tests are almost too close to call, and there are more similarities here than there are differences. We can say that the Hisense has a better overall contrast ratio and more accurate image out of the box, while the TCL has more precise local dimming with less blooming and higher peak brightness. But really, we're splitting hairs. One of the reasons we tend to recommend the Hisense over the TCL, aside from its notably better reflection handling, is that it tends to sell for just a bit cheaper than the QM7. But if you can find either on sale, they're both excellent lower mid-range options. The real winner here is you, dear viewer, because you can't go wrong. If you bought one of these TVs and have been agonizing over whether you made the right choice, you can rest easy knowing that the grass is just as green on the other side, and you actually aren't missing much. The only exception is if you're getting a 75-inch model. The 75-inch U7N uses an ADS Pro panel rather than a VA panel, so it'll have wider viewing angles at the expense of contrast. If the pattern holds with the 75-inch U8N we tested, which also uses the ADS Pro panel, then the U7N will take a hit in response time and HDR brightness as well. So if you're looking at a 75-inch model and don't mind a narrow viewing angle, go for the TCL. If you do have one of these TVs, drop us a comment to let us know what you think. And be sure to check out our full reviews of these models, linked in the description below. Until next time, I'm Abby from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best product for your needs. But the Hisense has better contrast with local dimming enabled, so there's that. Thankfully, both TVs support Dolby Vision HDR. That was not right.